Alright guys, welcome back to another G Auto Repair YouTube video. And I actually got a good one for you guys today. Working on a 2013 Scion TC. And the complaint was that the AC doesn't work and the instrument clusters don't work. I mean, all the little lights were on like a Christmas tree, but the tachometer and the speedometer didn't work at all. So this car came from an auction, and the customer said they had those two issues he wanted to get fixed. So I'm gonna tell you what it was, because I already figured it out, but it took me 2 weeks because this was a real doozy. The issue with the instrument cluster and whatnot ended up being I was having no communication with none of the modules. Only 3 modules I was able to communicate. I couldn't communicate with the ECU, the combination meter, the AC, nothing. The car would start, it would drive, but nothing. So long story short, I figured that was an actual bad module. It was a shorted AC module. Toyota calls it an AC amplifier. So after I disconnected it, boom, everything came back to life. So I figured, okay, that's our issue. The customer went to the junkyard. They got a new amplifier. I installed it. Everything worked great, except the AC still didn't work. Okay, so that's where my troubles began. Actually, I figured that was going to be the hardest part, but no, I figured that out within a few hours. The hard part was the AC wasn't working. So no codes, no nothing. And this thing took me for a rabbit. Made me dive into a rabbit hole, because this thing drove me crazy for 2 weeks or more. And the funny thing is, I promise I'm gonna let you know what it was, and I'm gonna prove it to you. But just in case you're having the same issue, I don't want you to go through the same mumbo jumbo. So there's no codes, as you can see, no codes. But if you were to turn on the AC, let's go to live data so you guys can see. As you can see, regulator control current 0, flow sensor is at 3.4, air conditioner signal cutoff is off. That means that it should theoretically work. Okay, but as you can see, it's not. No DTCs at all. Okay, so I saw the 3.4. I said, okay, we're good, and this is reading something. When you go to the ECU live data, the AC signal stays at off. It doesn't get to on. So the amplifier doesn't send a signal to the ECU that, hey, we're gonna turn on the AC, so the fans don't come on, and the module doesn't turn on the AC compressor. However, if you go to active tests, and I'm gonna try to do this quick because I don't want the engine to warm up too much. You can turn it on, and as you can see, you know, we start to get some airflow. It starts to cool off. Here, right here, the evaporator fin thermistor, you see that the temperature starts to drop. So I can turn it on using the scan tool, but the car is not able to turn it on. So I'm like, what's going on? Verified all my inputs to the AC amplifier. I made sure that this button was sending a signal. This actually has a power. It also sends a signal to the thing. So I verified that. I verified everything you could possibly think, and everything seems fine. So I called a buddy of mine. He said, "Oh, change the compressor because the valve goes bad." I'm like, I know about the valve. I've been in that situation before. Normally I get a code, but I'm not getting anything. So I'm like, oh, I just changed the compressor. And Come on, dude, this is an $800 compressor. I need to be sure. So he says change the compressor because they don't sell the valve separate, yada yada yada, blah blah blah, whatever. So I keep digging, I keep doing research, and I'm coming out empty-handed. I verify everything. I mean, I'm chasing a ghost at this time. So days of reading the service manual, looking for clues, looking for this, looking for that. I even tell the customer what my friend told me, and he says well, give me the compressor. I got a place that I could take it to over in Opalaka, and they'll rebuild it, and they'll measure everything. So we took it over there, and they tested it. They allegedly tested it. They say no, everything's working great. They adjusted something, which I don't know, but they said we hooked it up to our machine. It simulates it functioning, and everything's working, which is exactly what's happening here. So I'm like, whatever. We put it back on. Oh, and it looked like they have replaced the compressor at some point too, probably with another remanufactured one. So I go through all that trouble, install it, same thing. So I'm like, this is not, I don't know, this is driving me crazy. So I start looking at my data, I start looking at the manual again, and I don't know if you noticed, but I'm gonna turn this on again. Oh wait, you see here how the flow sensor, when you turn it on, it starts counting down. So you would think it's working. You would think it's working. You're like, okay, the sensor is working. What's the problem, dude? You know, come on. What's the issue? And that's where we run into the problem. That's where I finally had an aha moment. Because the range is from 0 to 5 volts. Obviously it can't be 0 or below 0.3 or something like that, because it sets off a code, and it can't be over 4.5, 4.7 or something like that, or else it'll set a code as well. But I noticed that it's stuck here in 3.35. So I'm like, why won't it go? I would assume it will go up to at least 4 something when it's stationary. So that got me thinking. I said, you know what? Let me see if I can find that sensor, which I did. Dorman Products actually makes a sensor that you can replace. So I ordered the sensor, got it the next day, popped it in, boom, 4 point something. Turn on the car, AC works fine. That was the issue. The flow sensor, not the flow control valve, the sensor. See, there's 2 different things. You have the regulator control current, which is the valve, the flow control valve, or the compressor control solenoid, I think is what they call it, and the flow sensor. It's something like that big. I will show it to you. And that was my issue. So if you have a problem with this car, any Toyota actually, because they all use the same system, I believe. If you are having a no AC engagement, and you come and you look at this flow sensor and it's anything less than 4 point something, you have an issue with that sensor. It's stuck in the intermediate region. Okay, it needs to be at 4. The amplifier needs to see 4 point something in order for it to turn it on. Once it sees that and it turns it out, then it should be counting down. But for some reason the sensor is stuck at 3.36 and is not allowing the module to turn on the compressor or anything for that matter. And that's what drove me crazy, because I said it cannot be the valve. If I can manually activate it, it cannot be the valve. How can it be the valve? That doesn't make any sense. Either it works or it doesn't work. You know, and it drove me crazy. So it wasn't the valve itself, it was actually the sensor. The sensor is what went bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this part, and then I'm going to show you guys an after reading of what you should see. Okay, so if you hang on tight, we're gonna slap on that new sensor, and then you guys are gonna see the difference. All right, guys, so we're back. I already replaced the sensor. Here's the sensor. This little thing is what was causing the whole issue. Now, a little tip for you guys is you technically do not have to drain the system. There's no seal, there's no nothing. This just kind of slides in a little hole with the snap ring. But I did have to drain the system, because in order to get to this, they don't give you much room. They don't give you much room to work with. So I was able to get it out, but then to put the snap ring back in, it was a mission. So I had to remove the lines out of the way so I can work better. So I did have to drain, vacuum, and recharge the system because of that. But in the model that you're working on, it may not be necessary. So, you know, just kind of keep that in mind. But this is the issue right here. This is called the flow sensor. The flow sensor, not the flow control valve, the flow sensor. Doorman does offer a OE fix part. I think the part number was 926818, I believe, 926818, and I was able to resolve the issue. So we're gonna give you some after shots here. As you can see here, stationary, it's 4.3. Let's see what happens. I don't know if it stays there or what, but okay, the AC is on now, as you can see. We have pressure building up on the high side. The regulator control valve is working, and we have a flow sensor 4.38. 4.38. It seems to be pretty much stationary there. Seems to be stationary there. So I'm not sure if that's how that's supposed to work. I figured it would be going down. As you can see, I am cooling 56 degrees, and I can notice a difference in the vents. So it's definitely working. The AC is working. This, I figured it would be, as there's flow going through there, it would alternate between 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 volts and what it is currently at now. But not what I expected to see, but it is working. The point is that it is working. So I'm happy with that. After 2 weeks, I finally got to the fix. All the little lights are off except for the ABS and the traction control, but that's a whole different issue. That's gonna be some sensors or something that's jacked up, but the customer's not worried about that right now. All that he was worried about has been taken care of. So I'm glad, I'm happy about that. So it is kind of warm out here, so it might take a minute for it to cool down the cabin, but it is working. I totally feel it. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was useful to somebody. As you can see there, we're already in the 40s. Like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you already subscribed to the channel, we thank you for your support. Thank you a lot. Please leave a comment or thumbs up or whatever. Thumbs down if you don't like it. You could be honest. And we'll catch you guys on the next video. Ciao.